For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. The death toll in Gaza has topped 54,000 after Israeli airstrikes killed dozens, including children, at a school-turned-shelter. Video shows a girl running through flames as her family burns to death. It sparked rare condemnation from Israeli ally Germany, whose chancellor said Israel's war cannot justify the suffering of Palestinian civilians. Israel's military said it was targeting militants. Meanwhile, a U.S. and Israeli-backed aid group says it's opened distribution centers in the southern city of Rafah and is providing food to Palestinians there after a near 3-month blockade caused at least 57 Palestinian children to starve to death. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's executive director Jake Wood, though, resigned Sunday after finding the aid provided by Israel was insufficient. The former Marine and co-founder of the disaster relief group Team Rubicon said in a statement the plan would not meet humanitarian principles. The United Nations had warned the plan turns aid into a weapon of war. Jans Larky is head of the United Nations Humanitarian Office.
It is a distraction from what is actually needed, which is a reopening of all the crossings into Gaza, a secure environment within Gaza, and faster facilitation of permissions and final approvals of all the emergency supplies that we have just outside the border and needs to get in.
Israel said it's allowed 170 trucks of aid to enter Gaza today. The United Nations says upwards of 600 truckloads are needed daily. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says the majority of medical equipment supplies have run out in Gaza, while 42% of basic medicines, including painkillers and vaccines, are now out of stock. Growing condemnation of Israel's Jerusalem Day celebration when far-right nationalists rallied and entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque, chanting death to Arabs and making disparaging remarks about Gaza. The neighboring country, Egypt, condemned the action. Qatar is warning it will fuel violence. Al-Aqsa is considered a holy site to both Muslims and Jews. More details are emerging about the 1,000-plus page budget that Republicans in the House passed last week. One provision would limit the power of federal courts to use contempt of court powers and making it harder to request injunctions on government policies. An analysis by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities says the bill as it stands would give the top 1% of income earners tax cuts 3 times the size of those for people with incomes in the bottom 60%. The analysis also finds the House GOP budget bill blocks as many as 20 million children and working families from receiving a full $2,500 child tax credit due to income requirements to receive it. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget is estimating the bill will cost more than $5 trillion over 10 years instead of the official estimate of $3.8 trillion added to the national debt. Alex Gonzalez reports.
Wisconsin GOP Senator Ron Johnson says there are enough Republicans to hold up Trump's big, beautiful bill over the $4.5 trillion it would add to the deficit. One part of the bill would cut funding for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau by more than 2/3. Alex Alvarez with Progress Arizona says the agency has already returned more than $20 billion to working families.
People are working harder than ever before, are seeing rising costs, and instead of giving any kind of support, this Congress is trying to aid the Trump administration's assault on the CFPB, which has returned $21 billion to defrauded consumers in the form of restitution or canceled debts.
Congress has voted to overturn a CFPB rule strictly limiting how much banks and credit card companies can profit from overdraft fees. I'm Alex Gonzalez for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
A Ukrainian official says Russian forces have taken over 4 border villages in Ukraine's Sumy region. The gains come days after Russia's President Vladimir Putin said he had issued an order to establish a buffer zone along the border. Meanwhile, a Russian bombing campaign that escalated in recent days. Germany says it will no longer bar Ukraine's use of German long-range missiles into Russian territory. More than 200 Ukrainian prisoners of war have died in Russian prisons since Moscow's full-scale invasion 3 years ago. Officials from human rights groups, the United Nations, and Ukraine's government say torture, starvation, and inadequate health care were likely contributing factors in many of those deaths. This comes as Russia and Ukraine have swapped hundreds more prisoners of war, the third and last part of a major prisoner swap. The Trump administration is canceling $100 million in federal contracts to Harvard. President Donald Trump is also suggesting he could redirect some $3 billion from the Ivy League university to trade schools. It's the latest assault on Harvard under the administration's crusade against anti-Semitism. The university charges its demands to fight anti-Semitism go far beyond that and are an assault on higher education and academic freedom. I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.